Once and for all.
Giant sucking sound.
We have got to stop sending jobs overseas. To those of you in the audience who are business people, pretty simple. If you're paying $12, $13, $14 an hour for factory workers, and you can move your factory south of the border, pay $1 an hour for labor, have no health care, that's the most expensive single element in making a car, have no environmental controls, no pollution controls, and no retirement, and you don't care about anything but making money, there will be a giant sucking sound going south.
They called Ross Perot crazy, but after 30 years, they call him right. Bubba was wrong. He signed NAFTA, and the giant sucking sound came from the South. And then he signed the China deal, and the giant sucking sound came from the East. There were a lot of sucking sounds in the 90s, and Chuck was fed up.
We are fed up, Mr. President. The Chinese should play by the rules once and for all. But how can we stand by as millions of American workers lose their jobs, as thousands of American companies can't compete fairly? No one seeks political advantage. What we seek, rather, is fairness. Fairness in trade.
The party that represented workers, the Democrats, immediately recognized the giant sucking sound was bad for workers, but good for donors. Wall Street got rich off the giant sucking sound, and so did Pelosi, Hillary, Kerry, Gore, all of them. So they talked about it to win votes, but didn't do anything about it, and turned China into a monster, their monster.
I worked in a factory, went to factory in 1989. We made radial passenger tires for cars. I worked there with my dad, 8 of my uncles, and 12 of my cousins. I was a union steward there. That plant now sits in China because you can import small radial passenger tires pretty cheap because of our failed trade policy in this Democrats' opinion.
Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, St. Louis, Milwaukee, I could go on and on. They traded jobs and honor for cheap phones and TV screens. Trump's declaring an end to the giant sucking sound and decided to slay the monster.
Countries like China, who have chosen to retaliate and try to double down on their mistreatment of American workers, are making a mistake. President Trump has a spine of steel, and he will not break. And America will not break under his leadership. When America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight.
So when the clock strikes midnight tonight, the battle begins. China will be hit with triple-digit tariffs. The export menace should have never retaliated. Trump believes he has the cards and likes his chances.
Trump has maximum negotiating leverage right here, right now. And I think it would be a mistake for anyone to think otherwise. I think it was a big mistake, this Chinese escalation. If you look at the history of the trade negotiations, we are the deficit country. So what do we lose by the Chinese raising tariffs on us? We export 1/5 to them of what they export to us. So that is a losing hand for them.
China had a plan. Dump cheap goods into the rest of the world, use the money to build their military, and pass the U.S. as the world's top superpower. But if China can't dump cheap goods here, and we're the world's biggest market, they have nowhere else to sell. They can't sell to Europe. They don't have the consumer power. And they can't sell to themselves because their birth rate's cratered. And once China can't sell, they have to lay off their workers. And the communists don't want a billion angry unemployed Chinese. That's how regimes get toppled. But we have to let Xi Jinping lose face gracefully. A quick, violent death makes us collateral damage. So we have to lower the Chinese casket into the ground diplomatically. While Trump's taxing Chinese products, he's kicking them out of the hemisphere. Pistol Pete's down at the Panama Canal today, flexing the Monroe Doctrine.
The United States of America will not allow communist China or any other country to threaten the canal's operation or integrity. I want to be very clear. China did not build this canal. China does not operate this canal. And China will not weaponize this canal.
China bribed the Bidens, but boy, did they pick the wrong horse. Trump knocked the big guy out, and now he's wrestling their precious TikTok away. And Beijing's on its heels. Breaking China also guts Russia. The Chinese can't fill Putin's shaky economy, so Now that Trump's engineered oil down to $60 a barrel, Putin's war machine is going to take a hit. Russia's influence in the Mideast is weaker than ever. Their proxy in Syria got picked off, and their other proxy, Iran, as we speak, is surrounded by 2 U.S. aircraft carriers, the USS Truman and the Vincent. Oh, and we have B-2 bombers waiting at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, while Trump's chief negotiator, Steve Witkoff, starts bargaining with the mullahs. Now, if they knock off their nuke program, we can bring Iranian oil back online and drive the energy prices down even lower. That'll hurt Putin, bring rates down, and take the edge off any inflation that the trade war triggers. And Europe knows where its bread's buttered. They can't afford their socialist welfare states without the American security blanket. And we're not going to give them that little blanket if they don't drop their tariffs. And they just said they're willing to go down to 0 tariffs. And if they kill their VAT tax and sprinkle in Greenland, we could have a deal. America dominating the Arctic is necessary for international security. And world peace costs money, which is why we need Ukrainian minerals. Who else does the world want on top? Us or China? Trump's logic is that China doesn't have the cards, and they're bluffing. China wants to make a deal badly, but they don't know how to get it started. We're waiting for their call. It will happen. And China can't afford to play the long game here because the rest of Asia is racing to negotiate with us. The Chi-Coms are isolated, and they know it.
President Trump made it very clear that the era of American economic surrender is over. President Trump is no longer going to allow American workers and companies to be ripped off at the hands of foolish trade practices that shipped away millions of high-paying jobs and hollowed out communities across the country.
Trump could go to China like Nixon did and rewire the world all over again. Give Xi a soft landing, let him put out domestic propaganda like he won. Who cares? Now, I don't know if any of this is going to happen or how it's going to end or when it's going to end. But I know every phone at the White House is ringing.
We're managing a massive number of requests for negotiations. It's actually logistically quite challenging just to go through them. It's something that I've been spending a lot of the time this morning doing because at NSC and NEC, what we have to do is prioritize the meetings for the president. And there are so many to go through that, we're actually getting ready to present a plan for him on, who and when.
The White House is having to put world leaders on hold. Excuse me, Prime Minister, I have the Chancellor on the other line. What's a good time to call you back? Hungary is actually going around the EU's back and trying to cut a one-on-one deal with us. I didn't even know you were allowed to do that. Ursula is going to be fuming. The Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, they're all ready to slash tariffs. But Trump's not just handing out deals willy-nilly.
We're taking in almost $2 billion a day in tariffs, $2 billion a day. And we're doing very well. And we're doing very well in making, I call them tailored deals, not off the rack. These are tailored, highly tailored deals. Right now, Japan is flying here to make a deal. South Korea is flying here to make a deal, and others are flying here.
Trump says his call with South Korea went great today. Aside from dropping tariffs, Seoul is ready to invest here and buy American. American companies are investing here, too.
Ford is America's #1 auto manufacturer, and we assemble more U.S. vehicles and we employ more U.S. hourly auto workers than any other OEM. And we want to do more, not less, here in the U.S. 80% of what we sell in the U.S. is assembled right here in the United States. And it would be helpful to have certain parts here in the U.S., and the White House gets that.
If Trump can pull this off, and we hope he does, he'll go down as one of the greatest presidents in history. Maybe it's because he got shot. Maybe it's because he nearly went to prison, or maybe it's his age, or maybe taking 4 years off and coming back on the job. You got a fresh head. But he's going for broke, and he knows how to use power.
He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. Get this. 86% of the American public believes that Trump's approach to presidential power is completely different from past presidents. You can agree or you can disagree with Donald Trump, but what you can't disagree with is that he's doing things very differently. I have used the Frank Sinatra quote before. He is doing it, quote unquote, my way.
Critics on the right and the left agree with the president's goals. Return the country to an industrial superpower for the modern era. But they disagree on tactics. Trump says this kind of shock therapy was necessary. It's the only way to bring the patient back to life. And it scares the rest of the world into submission. You can't slow roll it. It'll never get done because the next thing you know, here come the midterms. He's not tinkering around the edges. He's breaking it and putting it back together. And we pray we never hear that giant sucking sound again.